So, everyone, welcome back to the Just Listen to Jack podcast. This is technically the second episode. And with this episode, I'm going to introduce my second regular co-host here, but he don't like to be called a regular because he doesn't like to commit to anything.
Nope.
David. So he will be, I got David on here because I want him to be like the voice of the younger generation, because there's how many years between us?
Good 20 exact. Good 20
years exactly.
That's a whole ass generation.
That's a whole nother fucking lifetime right there between us. But, since I'm at a 20-year-old mindset and he's 20 years old, it kind of matches up, right? because I'm so immature.
It's young at heart. Right? Don't put it that way. It's all in perspective. There you go.
I'm gonna go with that one. Okay.
Don't get it wrong. You're still a head ass, but
yeah. I'm still, on these earthly years, I'm an old bitch, but spiritually, I'm a young buck.
There you go. We got it reversed here, because spiritually, I'm old as fuck on the other side. I've been here too many fucking times already.
Yeah,
it's time to go.
That's right. No, it's just beginning, baby. We're just getting started here.
Damn.
This is just like this is just a little side adventure here. We got many more adventures to be had.
Little side mission we got going on. Yeah, this is a motherfucker.
So, I wanted to have David on here because just a little history between me and David. We knew, how long have we known each other? How long has it been?
It's barely going to be a year this year.
Like what?
And yeah, like in June.
No, well, when did we, technically, we met at work for just a little back history. So how long have we been working together? Probably we'd been working together like 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
But what did you think of me when we first got here? Because we talked about this a couple of times already.
Okay, so let me see. It's a very hazy, fuzzy recollection here, not because I'm old, but just because the impact that you made was a very light. But I remember him introducing himself to me, and he was very formal.
That's a fact.
Very hello, like very introduced himself very formally. And I thought, this fool's about to, serve me right now with some papers.
Goddamn.
Like, it was official. He was like, hello, my name is David. I'll be I'm your new part-timer here, and I'll be training with this person. Nice to meet you. And I was like, oh, like, this fool's like, where does he think he's working at? We ain't working at the Pentagon here. we working up in retail.
That's okay. Right. We out here selling clothes and shit, but it's all about making impressions for me, So I didn't want to show up and be like, yeah, what's up? Nah, you got to make an impression.
You didn't want to be a goon right off the bat, right? Even though you are.
Yeah, no, I sneaked that shit in later on down the line, but.
Yeah, so it was a very official introduction to David, and just kind of after that, it just kind of like faded into the background. We get caught up in working, and he was only working part-time, so I would see him far and few in between. But the one time I noticed, like, David just appears to be very go with the flow, come in, do his work, in and out. He's still kind of just like,
fuck them kids.
Yeah, fuck them kids. I'm here, I'm doing my shit, and I'm out.
That's right. I'm here, you're queer, and that's about it. That's
like, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. That's not you.
That's what I said. All right, but anyways, I showed up to work, just did my thing, and then one fateful day, I was down in the dumps. Well, no, not even that. It was before that. I was just doing my thing, just walked in, did my work, and this old fucker comes in, and he starts cooking like a fucking fry chef back there. He comes in and he was like, you gotta dress better, bitch. And I was just like, what I do deserve? He's like, you dress like you still in high school. You dress like a little boy. And I was just like, punk ass old
He didn't even know it was him. I was freaking stabbing him, like freaking do it like in the, what's that one movie in American Me where he's just he's doing his lifting, and he just
yeah.
Didn't even know what hit him.
Business and shit. I was just like, wow. But
came out of nowhere.
But ever since then, I was like, all right, this whole fucking dude, he's got jokes, but behind every joke, there's truth. I was like, you know what? Maybe I could be dressing better. I could be presenting myself in a better light. And so ever since then, wash that shit out. New year, new me, right there.
That's right. And yeah, so this grizzly old bear over here, freaking. Well, no, I'm not a bear because I ain't a hairy bitch.
You've got like 3 hairs on your head.
I know. And look at it, fucking no hair on my chest. My shit is clean.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like so that was kind of the first foray into just kind of getting to know each other a little bit better. And you know, I tend to give unsolicited advice. Yeah. It's but always with lots of love behind it. It's never malicious. You know, it's very, you know, it's a little bit of what do we want to call that? We want to call that some constructive criticism
that nobody really asked for, but I mean, it's there anyway.
It's right there. Here, you do with it with what you want. I told you you look like you needed to step your pussy up, basically, and. No, but you know, it's just I saw some potential in him, and I'm just like, you know, I just kind of mentioned, hey, you know, like you could do a little bit more with what you got, and to my surprise, you know, a lot of people, you know, there's been few. I do makeup, and I've been doing styling for years, and obviously people have come to me for advice, and I've helped them out. But this is actually the first male that I kind of said, hey, you know. It's like, you know, like, why don't you try doing a little bit more with what you got and
you can step it up, yeah.
Yeah, and he actually took that advice and he freaking ran with it, because what you see here was a work in progress. This is not what I saw many moons ago, or not too long ago. This is not what I saw.
Many moons ago, you saw some like scruffy kid with a hat on and like just regular good old clean shirt. Not even a fucking clean shirt. No. It was dusty. Blue jeans and Vans.
Yep.
Not to say there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, you can do more.
And there was this haircut.
Oh.
There's like a meme out here about this haircut that you go to the barber to get, and it's very. See, back in my day, it was called the Caesar cut. It's kind of like the bangs brushed down, but it was like more like tapered in the back. This one was like. Very, I don't know, bowl cut almost. It was very chinky.
That's right.
And, you know, he was just, you know, but, you know, you make one little change and it kind of starts the wheel spinning. So you're like, you know what? Look, I got these new clothes on. What about my hair? You start to kind of see, and it takes a certain person to see the potential in themselves, because you have to kind of step outside for a minute. Because yeah, it's one thing, some person telling you, hey, you know, step it up, but you have to be able to see it yourself in order to really grasp the change. So he took it, he saw the potential, he started growing his hair out, giving it some more style, making it look more chale. And yeah, and so this is what we got now. He actually just cut his hair not too long ago, just to another evolution of the style of the physical. So this is where we're going to get into like the meat, the carne, the meat and the potatoes here, because today what we're really going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about the journey, and we're going to be talking about, you know, the evolution and what that entails, and specifically with your journey, because you're relatively new on your journey, but you have come quite a long way. So that's why I really wanted to have you on for today's show, because you are somebody who exemplifies taking the journey, or even recognizing that it is a journey, and freaking doing something with it and seeing results of the journey. So just kind of going back to, like, you know, that's kind of our first encounter. That was kind of our first you know, first kind of interaction with each other on like a more personal level. And then it kind of turned into, you know, much more than that, because as you mentioned, you know, we're kind of down to the dumps. Like, kind of where were you, you know, without giving out too much detail, because he don't like anybody to know his shit.
That's right. That's a fact.
Without giving out too much detail, you know, where were you at that time in your life?
At that time, you know, my life, you know, I feel like it's a place that everybody's been at one point or another. And it's kind of just like you're there, but you're on autopilot. You feel me? Like, you're kind of just there doing everything routine, but you're not invested in what you're doing. Like, you know, you wake up, brush your teeth, go to work, come out of work, go to sleep, wake up and do it again. Like, there's no meaning behind the life you're living. Yeah. And I feel that eventually you kind of recognize you're on autopilot, and it kind of is self-demoralizing, and it kind of digs into you a little, because you're like, this isn't me. This isn't the life I was meant to be living. This isn't the person I was meant to be. So definitely now it wasn't just me feeling it, but it was now me showing it physically, you know, and just the energy and aura around me. It was just, you know, it was super drained. Nobody wants to be around that.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jack being, you know, el pan de Dios that he is, he shows
Been called
up.
many names.
Yeah. That's one of the nicer names on the list.
Yeah,
though.
it is. Yep.
He shows up and he was like, hey, dude, you know, what's going on? And even just a person reaching out to somebody else like that when they see it, I mean, that person doesn't necessarily have to, you know, open up to you, but just to make yourself available to a person means a lot. And at that time, me and you, we weren't close in any means of the sense. You know, we just worked together, and that's where it ended right there.
Exactly.
And Jack reached out to me, and he was like, you know, what's going on, dude? You know, this isn't normally, you know, not that, you know, I was a presence in the store, you know, a presence anywhere at that point, but you know, I was even less of a presence. It was just like, you know, a body there in the room. Mm-hmm. And just him reaching out, I kind of just, you know, opened up slightly. And then here comes, and here comes Jack kicking the fucking door open.
That's right.
Then the rest was history. But it's definitely something that, you know, that in a funny way, it's life-changing. Just how little an interaction like that can be with somebody. You never know what the effect could be.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's, you know, at that moment, like he said, I didn't have a sense of who David was. I didn't have, you know, just saw him showing up to work and doing his thing and going home. And, you know, if you ever take a moment, you know, you work with people. I mean, these people I worked with, you know, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, you know, I seen them more sometimes than I saw my husband or my family. So you get a real sense of you know, kind of understanding their little nuances and their ticks and everything. And so there was just something about him that just wasn't, you know, even though he was quiet and somebody who kept to himself, you know, there was definitely something off about that. And, you know, just reaching out to him, like he said, it just kind of opened up when it wasn't even necessarily talking through, any issues that he was having. It was like we just started bonding with music. You know, we'd just be sending each other music back and forth. Like that's how we bonded. That's where like our story began, was that we just were really both lovers of music. And this fool right here, I mean, he has a catalog. I mean, he appreciates all forms of music. I was really surprised by him, going back to the old soul thing, that, you know, at your age to have that knowledge of music and that respect for different genres of music is very rare. So of course, me being an older bitch that I am, you know, like he's kind of at my level of knowing, you know, music that I grew up with. And so that's kind of really how we bonded, was through music. And then that just kind of opened the door to more conversations about life and the conversations about evolution and, you know, changing, kind of being at a crossroads. Like I think that's, you know, kind of what you were saying, the autopilot thing is like, you know, being at your age, like for me being like through the ages of 18 and 21, that's kind of like, I felt like for me personally, I was out, you know, out in the middle of nowhere without a paddle. I didn't have much direction. I was still learning a lot about myself, and I didn't have really anybody to guide me through that. So I had once read this quote, and I think I had sent it to you or I had posted it one time, where it says, be the mentor that you never had, because I never had a mentor. I never had anybody to show me, you know, I didn't even have a father to show me how to shave or how to really be a man. You know, I was raised by all women. So I really didn't have a mentor per se, to kind of guide me and just show me the way life and kind of give me direction, because, you know, you find support in different people. So, you know, I kind of saw that in you, that you were kind of at a crossroads, even though you came from a really great family. I mean, I love his family. They're great. So you have a lot of support. You have a traditional foundation, but there was something that you were, you know, maybe some more direction that you needed. Like you know, being in that tender age, you know, what do you kind of feel, you know, where do you kind of feel like for you the crossroads were at? Like, what kind of direction were you looking for?
The kind of direction I was looking for, I mean, I just wanted to do more and be more, but that all starts with one's own self. So going back to what you said about mentors, I grew up in a traditional family, like you said, you know, my mother, my father, and I was lucky to have them there. But there comes a point in your life where, you know, your parents won't be able to raise you no more. Your father won't be able to mentor you anymore. Your mother won't be able to teach you anymore. You have to go out and live your life. And there comes a time where, you know, you're going to kind of not know what you're supposed to be doing or not know who you are really. And I feel that a lot of people nowadays, they're afraid to explore themselves. They're afraid to go out and experience and to know what they are and what they're not.
Right.
So it's definitely a thing that was happening for me. I knew what I didn't like at that time, but I was kind of stuck living it because I was in a way unsure how to get out of that little hump right there. And I feel like that there's a lot of people out there like that too, where, you know, they're stuck in a place, they want to get out, but they don't know how to. And quite simply for me, I can't speak for everyone, but for me, it was to open up.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't do a whole lot. That's something that not a whole lot of people have really seen, but it's something that you shouldn't close everybody off to, because you never know who you'd be able to relate to. Like me and you, for example, we're 20 years apart,
right?
But we've lived essentially, you know, down the same road. You know, we've traveled the same path.
Right.
And that's the funny thing is, you know, it's the people you would never expect.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, you know, people always ask me, you know, because they see our bond, they see what we have, and they're like, you know, what is, you know, they try to understand what it is. You know, what is it that you have in common with somebody who's 20 years younger than you? And, you know, this goes back to, on a surface level, it doesn't appear that there's a lot of things in common. Of course, we have, like, you know, we like kind of nerd stuff and video games and music, but, you know, the strong bond that exists between us is an energetic thing. It's not a anything that is in of this physical world. And, you know, that's kind of what we talk about when we talk about energy, and we talk about tribes. You know, like the best way I explain it, and I had to explain this to my husband, because of course when I first, you know, started like introduced David to my husband, he was like, you know, just trying to understand, well, like, what is our bond? Because him, like everyone else, is like, well, what is, you know, you guys are like, you know, he's 20 years younger than you, and what, you know, what's this about? And I said, it's just the best way that I can explain it, I said, is that we come from the same tribe. We come from the same place. So it's like somebody who's very familiar to you. So it's like, you don't think of, oh, it's like your family. You don't think like, oh, it doesn't matter how old they are, how young they are. When it's just like, oh, that's like my family. They're part of my tribe. So, you know, that's why how we're connected. And that's like the best way that I can try to understand it, or not even. I mean, for me, I don't have to understand it. I just know. You know, but like in order to explain it to other people, that's kind of like the explanation that I use. Like, what would you say like about that?
I mean, like, the best way to really put it is like, when you know, really, because energy is always going to attract energy. So what you're putting out to the world is what you're going to get back. And, you know, what you are naturally is going to attract what, you know, people are going to be similar to you. And that's the best way we can put it, really. It's just that energetically, you know, we just mesh together really well, but spiritually, you know, we've been friends a long time, because I mean, it sounds super hippy dippy.
It does. It does.
But it's a very real thing. And not many people really recognize that, because I mean, not many people believe in it, but it's something that's very real. You know, it's a part of nature, essentially, you know, earth, wind, and fire, but also energy. It's been around, you know, forever.
Right. Yeah, so it's, you know, it's just one of those things that, you know, and I think everybody's experienced this when they meet somebody at some, you know, at some level where they feel like, oh, you're so familiar to me, or, you know, I just feel like
when you really just click with somebody out of
nowhere.
nowhere.
You can just click with them. You're just like, oh, geez, like we've just known each other, and that's more of the energy that you're feeling, more so than just like, oh, this person's cool. So, you know, with that said, you know, we want to talk about the journey, because you have been on a whirlwind journey of self-discovery, of growth, of evolution, in a very short time. And that is, and really why I wanted to David to really talk about this is because he is somebody who has understood what the journey is and what the potential for success is in in knowing who you are and knowing what you're meant to be doing. So although you just started your journey a short while, you know, you've seen a lot of results from staying on the path. So tell us about that.
I mean, well, going back to what we were talking about earlier, you know, finding yourself in a dark place, just recognizing that you're in a dark place, that's the start of the journey. That's the essence right there. And then learning about yourself and learning how you're feeling, finding the root of all of that, that's part of the journey too. But then recognizing that and then doing something more to kind of better yourself and get yourself out of that spot, you know, that's when you're really starting to walk down the path you're supposed to. Because once you recognize that you're not where you're supposed to be and, you know, you're not feeling how you're supposed to be, now you're making progress. And so the thing that you told me to do was to really sit down and figure out what you're feeling and where it's coming from. Is it coming from a, you know, from a person? Is it coming from a situation? Is it from how you're feeling about how something went down? And so essentially I took all of that and I, you know, just sat down. I really thought about it. Like, I'm not talking about just, oh, you know, I could have done that better, but no, really thought about what the end result was and how you can still move forward past that.
Right.
So, I mean, I recognized that what it was is that I was feeling empty because I was giving bits and pieces of myself to people that didn't deserve it, giving bits and pieces to people that, you know, they didn't care as much as I cared, or, you know, they weren't putting their best foot forward as I was. And when you're doing that for the wrong people, it's very draining.
Yeah.
And so essentially from there, I started recognizing, I was like, fuck them kids.
Fuck them kids. Yeah. And that's the thing about it is, you know, at this age in particular, why, you know, I say it's a very vulnerable time is because you want people to like you. You want to feel supported. You want to be part of the group. You know, so by adjusting yourself and changing yourself and energetically bringing yourself down to their level when you're like, you know what, this is not really want to be, but this is kind of where everybody else is my age, and this is what everybody else is doing, and they're kind of caught up in, like, you know, this little situation, but I'm really feeling like I want to, you know, I want something more. So, you know, you oftentimes, you know, bring yourself down instead of them meeting you up here. So you know, tend to absorb some of that.
No, definitely.
You know,
and
explain that.
It also goes down to, you know, I want all these people to like me, but I don't really like myself. You know, like I'm trying to fit in with this group just to have that sense of community, but really the only person you'll ever really need is yourself. I mean, you're on this, you know, rock floating in space for, you know, 60, 70, 80, 100 years. And the only person that's ever going to really be there with you is yourself. So you got to kind of figure out who you are, what you do, and what you don't do, you know, and recognizing that I was kind of stuck in a weird place, but it's a place where, you know, yeah, I've invested time and, you know, energy with these people, but I noticed that they're not really the best for me. I noticed that they're, like you were saying, they're bringing me down when I should, you know, have them meet me up there. But it's definitely, you know, it's like you were saying, it's a crossroads because it takes people forever to realize this. But once you do realize it, you're in such a better place just because you're legitimately happy and content with yourself as a person and as a being here on this earth. So definitely doing that and going back to basics, really, like, all right, what do I like? I know that, you know, not too long ago too, you know, we were both in the same spot, and, you know, no matter how old you are or, you know, where you're at in your life, you'll always be at a crossroads. So I mean, at one point, you know, not too long ago too, you were at a crossroads. But how we got back to, you know, us being ourselves, where you got to recognize, what do I like and what don't I like? Me, example, I didn't really like, you know, this group that I was, you know, like being not sucked into, but, you know, like trying my best to, you know, accommodate to them. But it wasn't really my style. It felt draining. And then I was like, well, I don't like that, but what do I like? I like reading. I like,
Mm.
listening to some fucking jams.
Yep.
I like, having my own little me time. I like going on my own little adventures and doing, the things that I want to do.
Yep.
Go to the places I want to go and eat where I want to eat. Just simple things like that
Yeah.
are really the stepping stones and the foundations for, you finding yourself.
Yep. Yeah. And just kind of going back to what you said, in the end, all you're going to have in the end is yourself, and you have to be okay with who that person is, because, going back to what makes you happy, it's, those are things that help you to reconnect with yourself. And, oftentimes we say that, oh, you've changed. And you got a lot of that. Oh, you've changed, you this. Well, in order for somebody to recognize that you've changed, they have to know who you are, and they can't know who you are if you didn't know who you were.
Exactly.
So, you get a lot, when you're going through the process of self-discovery, you are reacquainting with yourself, because you're born with all these things in you. It's just like it's just accessing them and bringing them to the forefront. So when somebody says, "Oh, you've changed," you'd be like, "No, I haven't changed. This is who I've always been. I'm just woke. I'm just woke. I'm just seeing things now. I cleaned up my lenses now, and I'm becoming aware of what I bring to the table. I'm aware of what impact I have on my surroundings. It's not I've changed." So, that's kind of like what you were going through a lot of, is like, oh, you've changed.
And there's a very negative connotation behind that word, oh, you've changed. It's not that, oh, you've changed. It's, oh, he's evolved. Oh, he's become, something else. And the funny thing is that, I still have an immense amount of love for these people, and, I send them peace, light, and blessings. But it's okay to love somebody, but still be yourself and do your own thing. You don't always got to be attached at the hip with somebody, or, with something, with a group. And that's the thing, is that once I recognize that, once, other people would recognize that, they'll be like, oh, he's changed. He doesn't really fuck with us anymore. Or, he was fake, or all this and all that. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. But me as a person, I knew the truth behind, what I was doing, my intentions and my journey. And, it's up to just me to understand that. It's, it's fine for just me to know that, because as we were saying earlier, you're the only person you'll ever be with for the rest of your life. Yeah. Regardless, you're going to have your friends, your family, and all this and all that. But if they don't understand you and they don't support you, can we really say that, they're really a part of, your tribe, and they're really there to support you?
Right.
And it's a very important thing. Some people live their whole fucking lives and they don't know who the fuck they are. They're putting on a mask, they're putting on a show for somebody else. They're putting on like a little bit of a song and dance for other people, but they don't know their own song. And that's the funny thing. And
you know what? The thing about you is, I never got the sense that you were putting on a show for anybody. It's just like you, correct me if I'm wrong. It just felt like you were aware that, like, this is like not where I want to be, but you were aware of your surroundings. You were aware, like, this is not quite like what I want to do, but you were definitely looking for what's the alternative? What is it that I am looking for? Do you kind of feel like that's kind of where you were?
Exactly. You got to keep, well, not necessarily keep your options open. You got to know what's around you and know what could be around you. And so if you're not satisfied with your surroundings, if you're not happy with your environment, change environments. If you're not happy with the people around you, find a new group, or better yet, find yourself.
Right.
Because that's the much more powerful thing, to know who you are. It's going to draw other people that are going to like you, not because you're putting on a front for them, or you're pretending to be something that they like, but because they genuinely like you for who you are.
Right. Right. And that's, when you show somebody, I always go back to the when I go back to Maya Angelou, because she just said some powerful words about, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. But if you don't know who you are yet, how are you going to show, what are you showing people if you really don't know who you are? And, one of the things we always talk about is, and this is kind of the saddest part, kind of transitioning from high school into an adult, out of high school is that is that you're going to leave some people behind. There's going to be some people that don't serve you. They had their purpose in your life. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the evolution process that is always the hardest, because obviously you have a heart and these people meant something to you at one time. But as you're growing and evolving, you realize that that there's certain people in your life that, they no longer serve you.
They're staying stagnant.
Yeah, they're saying, and that's them. That has nothing to do with you. But you just have to be okay with the fact that you will leave some people behind in the evolution process, because you're no longer hunched over dragging on your knuckles. You're standing upright.
There you go.
So you're no longer walking like that anymore. So I mean, you want to walk with people who are standing upright. In a really lame example that I'm using, but
it's traditional. It's evolution. You're going from being the chimp to being the actual person. Now you're going from being a chimp to a human. And that's the thing too, is that there's times for me, there's gonna be times always where you kind of outgrow your friends, and you can you can't force them to grow. You can't force the horse to drink water. You just have to do what's best for you, and know that you're doing the best for you.
Yeah.
As self-centered and selfish as that might seem, at the end of the day, if it's not doing you any good, what do you got it around for?
Right.
Plain and simple.
Plain and simple. Now, part of, now that we're talking about leaving people behind, and, one of the harder transitions for me, kind of in this age, was like being in my first relationship. And, being in a relationship when I really didn't know who I was, and kind of, having that person who impacted you, who unlocked something in you that you didn't know you were capable of, but having to leave them behind as part of the evolution process. And like, I'm not trying to put you on blast or anything, but I think it played a great deal in part of your evolution, was kind of evolving from that situation.
Exactly that too, because at some point or another, you kind of, get stuck in routine again. And, you kind of base who you are around this person that, you're around with for so much. But then when that, when things end, the unpleasant truth is that everything has an end. And so when that happens, you're kind of lost, and, you're kind of in a weird spot. But the way I've always seen it is that you can either grow and overcome from this, or you're going to, destroy yourself even more. Yeah. That fire, is either going to, bring you up, or it's going to burn you down.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that, as traumatic as it is, the wounds that we have only make us stronger. Definitely.
Absolutely.
And, that's something that all of us, me and you in the room, everyone out there, everyone, listening, has dealt with, But the greatest teachers are heartbreak, being fucking dirt broke,
right,
and fucking something up so goddamn hard. But it's the things that are necessary. They have to happen. They are a part of life. They're a part of the journey. But you can either use it as, an excuse on why it tore you down, or use it as your defining moment on who you are today.
Yeah. Where are you at right now? Where do you feel you're at on your journey?
On my journey?
Yeah.
I'm still fucking kicking rocks, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still kicking rocks, but, I know I'm going down the path I'm supposed to be going. Every now and again on your own path, you're going to find, that person, or you're going to come across that situation or that event, and you're going to send from it. But, right now on my journey, I'm big chilling,
Big chilling?
Yeah, I'm just cruising, I'm just driving my boat just down the street, But, driving my boat down the street. Yeah, like I always have like SpongeBob memes in my head.
Oh shit.
But it's fine, because there's always that calm before the storm.
Yeah.
It's always a little slow before you get hit with that fucking burst that puts you on your ass.
Now, one of the things that I think that you've benefited the greatest from on your journey is putting out positive energy into the universe. And that's like a lot of what we're going to be talking about just in general on this podcast is like
super hippy dippy.
Yes.
That's right.
And that's the thing about it. And I was speaking with one of my other guests before about, you know, my goal is to make it very accessible. And I think that if I had been too hippy dippy with you about my spirituality and sharing that with you and kind of giving you some tools to work with, you might have been turned off, or it might have like turned you away. But my goal is to, you know, in talking about spirituality, is to make it very accessible, because we're not talking about religion here. We're talking about spirituality and the power of positivity and putting out good energy. And I think I probably explained it to you in a way that didn't it scare you away.
Yeah, where I'm just like right and looking, like, this motherfucker crazy.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think I remember talking to him about it and kind of giving to him, okay, like, now I'm gonna let you in on some, you know, I'm gonna peel back another layer of the onion with me, and I'm gonna show you, you know, share with you, you know, kind of what my beliefs are. And I think that's kind of like, you know, kind of deepened our bond a little bit, is because, you know, we're, you know, a lot of what we talked about and a lot of interaction was very surface level things, but, you know, I felt like, okay, I'm ready to go in. I'm gonna go in. I'm going balls deep.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're gonna fucking stick it in.
Right.
Now you're gonna give them the whole show. But it's, in essence, what it was is that you just inspired a mindset in me that, you know, if you think positive things and do things with good intentions, what you give out into the world, what you're gonna give it back. And if you're fucking genuine about it, if you're not a fucking hater,
right.
Yeah, you know, if you're just not a fucking stick in the mud ass kind of person,
Yeah.
you know, and you're genuinely wishing the best for somebody, not only does it feel good for you, but I mean, what you're gonna give out is what you're gonna give back.
Yeah.
You know, give out and you're gonna receive it in return.
Yeah.
And that's all it really was, you know, not to, you know, say that, you know, I was a hater, you know, like I was like super negative about things, but I was just super nonchalant, you know, like it is what it is kind of thing.
Best way to explain
you know,
it. Yeah.
That's just how it be sometimes. But it's not always like that, you know. If the only disability in life, I like to think, is having a bad attitude, having a bad mindset, and having, you know, just that negativity lingering over you like a cloud.
Yeah.
But if you're genuinely, excuse me, you know, thinking positively and wishing the best and putting out just that, you know, good energy, people are going to feel that. You're going to feel it, and you're going to feel better. And, you know, your vibe attracts your tribe. And so when you're doing all of that, you know, you're going to be led to, you know, great people.
Right. Right. Who are going to help support your journey and support your intentions, the intentions that you're putting out there. I remember asking you one time, I said, what's your plan for the next 2 years? You know, and you kind of looked at me a little bit like you hadn't really thought about it, you know, what your plan was. And I remember you asking, you know, you telling me like, well, you know, I want this, and I want that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's going to happen for you.
Put it in motion.
Put it into motion. What do you have to do? Like, it's, you know, you have to be very specific about the things that you want. And you were very specific, like, in 2 years, I want this, and I want that. And you have to, in order for those things to happen for you, it's a very simple, you know, it's a very simple concept, but it's very hard to grasp. And what is that?
It's a secret, you know.
It's a secret.
It's a secret, you know, but we're going to let you in on the secret is, you know, putting out good energy, putting out things, you know, that you want to happen, and, you know, just wishing the best and putting out the positivity. That's what you're going to get back. Plain and simple. But to go back to what you were saying too, you know, it's important to have a plan. It's important to have that plan of action, you know. Like you always say, it's the man with the plan. That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, too oftentimes people get caught up, you know, living day to day, but they don't, you know, think about days coming down the road. Yeah. They don't think about, you know, the possibilities, what could happen, what can't happen, you know. So, I mean, when you're living day to day like that, you're kind of just not really living, you know. You don't got, if you don't got anything planned, if you don't have anything got on the calendar, what are you doing? You know, it's important to have those goals. It's important to be motivated and drive those ambitions forward. Yeah. And I mean, that goes hand in hand to what we're talking about is, you know, you're speaking it into its existence. And I mean, not to say, you know, just because you're going to speak into existence, it's going to happen, but no, you're going to, you know, get up off your ass, you're going to get up out of bed, and you're going to put in the work for it. But just know and feel reaffirmed that, you know, what you're doing isn't in vain. Is that, you know, you're putting your best foot forward, and the world around you is going to notice that and accommodate with you.
And the thing is that you don't always see immediate results. However, this motherfucker over here has seen immediate results because he just simply just flipped the switch. And I think that you just really got it.
Power of the mind.
Yeah, you just understood what making, putting out your intention out there showed results. So you can probably say, for the most part, that you're well on your way to reaching your 2-year goal in 6 months. This happened like 6 months ago.
Yeah, it did.
And, there's just been so many great things that have happened for you. And, it's not a coincidence because there's what?
No coincidences.
That's right. It's not a coincidence. But you made a conscious decision that you were going to change your outlook on things. You were going to put out good energy. And just, for example, think about the way that you've handled things that were very, that could have been like, that were kind of tough situations to deal with. And how did you handle them? What did you send those situations off with?
Good energy and blessings and peace. Nothing
Exactly.
But the funny thing is that the sword swings both ways. So yeah, you got in a car accident, instead of being like, oh, that motherfucker, dented my shit in. But did you die?
But did you die? Right. It's the perception of what, what your life is. We all have things that we're working on and things that we don't like about ourselves or things that we would like to improve. But what if we focused on the things that are great in our life? I mean, it sounds so simplistic. It's a simplistic way of thinking, but it's very effective. It's very effective.
And I think that's the issue with a lot of people nowadays, is that we get tunnel vision with our own problems and our own conflict and our own stress. Like, oh, this and this is happening. That's all they focus on, but they're neglecting the blessings that they already got. They're neglecting the good that's already happening for them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm struggling with this paper, and I'm going to fail the class. No, you're not. I failed the test, but I'm still passing the class. I'll just do better next time. Fuck. I fucking ghost in your house talking about all these, talking about all the fucking spirits and shit.
That's right. They came to make an appearance.
That's dank. Yeah. But, it's that's the thing, is people spend too much time focusing on the bad and focusing on the negative, that they neglect the great that's happening around them. And when you focus on the bigger picture and all the great that's happening around you, instead of just, seeing all the bad, you're looking at, a pebble with a microscope. So, of course, it's going to look like a fucking boulder. Yeah. But when you zoom out, you're like, it's not even that bad.
Yeah, and the big picture of things, like, were you kind of feeling like you were kind of focusing on things that you were lacking in your life, before you started on your journey? Is that kind of how you were feeling?
Yeah, but when you start to change that mindset, you're like, God damn, I wish I had a better car. But at least you have a car. God damn, I'm broke.
Yeah.
But I'm not hungry.
He's not really broke. Okay, I'm not going to expose you anymore.
Hey, we're still broke, all right?
I
got holes in my pants.
You broke. You
got
broke,
holes
bitch.
in my pants. But
match the holes in your head.
Yeah, that's right. Sounds like a fucking coconut. And
yep.
Shit. It's all over. But again, it's just you're spending too much time focusing on the negative. But at least if you're going to focus on the negative, recognize your problem, now find the solution.
Right.
We know the problem, now let's find the solution. Because that problem's not going to go anywhere, but there are tons of solutions we can find out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, David has definitely changed his mindset. He has I just don't know. I'm just like completely blown away because I wasn't even, it took me a while to get there, to get on the secret. And to really understand the power of affirmations and the power of positive thinking. It really took me a long time to grasp that because it was part of my spiritual journey and kind of evolving. It took me a lot longer to realize that because I didn't even really grow as a person until I was like in my early 20s. I was still, I talk about being a big kid and being very immature and kind of emotionally stunted. I talked about that. Emotionally and stunted by, a lot of things that happened in my life. And, it took me a while to kind of like catch up. I was a late bloomer. It took me a while to catch up. And part of catching up was also catching up spiritually, and catching up on actually starting to address the things that I wasn't happy about in my life. So, I take my hat off to you, because you've taken, you've become woke a lot sooner than I have. Woke.
Yeah, woke.
Yeah, you become woke. AF. So, yeah, that's why it's like, it just trips me out, because, I've seen, the principles that you've put into place of putting positivity out and seeing the rewards of that. That's why, like, it just trips me out.
And it's all genuine too, because I mean, when people say woke, there's kind of like a running joke with it. There's a stigma behind it. People kind of shy away from it. But the next time you hear something like that, or, the next time before you crack a joke about somebody that's woke, or that they're trying to be in tune with their spirit, give it a shot yourself.
Yeah.
So don't hate on them because they're going down their own path. I mean, instead focus on what you got in front of you. Right. Focus on your own journey ahead. That person's going through what they're going through. If you can be there for them, great. If you can't, then send them off with the best of intentions and with well wishes and nothing but blessings.
Right.
Fuck you gonna kick a person while they're down for? There's no reason for that.
Yeah. Talk about some of the, what are some of the things that helped you to become more connected? And we're kind of get into the higher self. And that's something that I always told David is like, what is your higher self telling you? He's probably looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about?
What's this old dude talking
about?
Yeah,
what's this old fucking bamboo talking about? He calls me Rafiki. He's Simba.
That's a fact. But no, but it's funny because that just dictates how our relationship is. Not to say that he's an old baboon. He kind of is.
Yeah, a little bit.
Think of the connection between Rafiki and Simba. Rafiki, he'd been there, he'd done that. Now he's mentored Simba, and he's mentored many other people. He was the wisest in the whole fucking movie. But something that Jack had imparted on me was a very powerful tool that I feel that not a lot of people recognize or think that it's kind of just people sitting there breathing heavily. It's meditation.
Yeah.
But when you meditate, you're really sitting down and figuring out what you're feeling, and sorting through everything that you got going on and everything that is happening around you and how you're really feeling about it and what you're going to do about it. So with meditation for me, it really opened myself up to my own self, if that makes sense. It's really opening the door to and reintroducing myself to myself. And that's the funny thing, as funny as it might sound. Who are you introducing me to? Myself. What's up? Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, like, what's
hey,
up?
dude,
How's
what's
it hanging?
Hey,
like a fucking weirdo. But meditation definitely, because it's a very powerful thing to practice, and it puts everything in perspective for you, and it sorts everything out for you.
Yeah. And part of the meditation is being able to connect with your higher self, and you have a really great relationship with your higher self, right?
Oh, yeah, me and that motherfucker camarada.
Yeah.
Amigos.
So talk about like what does the higher self mean to you? What is that? What is that? Who is that? Who's your higher self?
The best way to put it is that your higher self is that voice in your head, but now you're much more in tune with it. Is now you're not, it's a weird way of thinking. Is you're thinking already knowing the end result.
Yeah.
You're thinking already knowing the future. As weird as that might sound, hey, if you're trying to figure out what I'm talking about, go try meditating for yourself and then come back.
Exactly, and then come talk to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's really what it is. It's the voice inside of yourself. It's the light within you communicating back and forth with you. So again, like, this sounds super trippy and super crazy, but if you want to better understand it, you got to go out there and try it. Before you can knock something, you got to try it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that kind of food. Well, have you tried it? No. The fuck do you know you don't like it then? It's just things like that. But definitely meditation, affirmations, again, like you were saying, speaking good into existence. We as people, we have the power to do anything we want, but why are we going to, inflict self-harm in any kind of the means, mentally, physically anything like that, when you can just not so easily, but start shifting that mindset into a greater good.
Yeah. And one of the things I had told David is, I had told him that, if you those who take the high road, they don't what?
They're not bothered by traffic.
They're not bothered by traffic. And, the best way to explain the higher self is that you see everything. You see the big picture. So you're literally above, the cloud of, all of this like negative stuff and, the surface world things. But when your higher self already sees everything, like you're only seeing like what's going on in your immediate area, but like your higher self has a snapshot of like everything, and it sees like the end result, and it just has a clearer picture of what's going on. And like you said, it kind of like knows the outcome of things because it could see farther than what you're able to see like at this level. Mm-hmm. So when you connect to that, it gives you clarity, it gives you answers to questions that you have. And it's a very powerful tool, connecting with your higher self and being able to, ask it these questions, or to give you a better understanding of a situation. Mm-hmm. Like when was the time that you really like connected with your higher self?
Shit, that's like every day. Jack,
yeah.
More specific, but it's really, whenever you got like a really, tough situation on your hands, like not too long ago, I was in a bit of a rut myself, mm-hmm. but instead of, getting angry or upset or, stressing myself out, I just thought about it, sat down and said, all right, what's the bigger picture behind this? What's the bigger meaning? What's this message that, is trying to be communicated to me? Mm-hmm. And for me, what it was is that, it was perseverance. It was, they're making it hard for you, but you're just being challenged. Yeah. Are you going to back down from that challenge, or are you going to overcome it? Or are you going to come out stronger because of it? Yeah. And then be thankful that it happened. Because, again, there are no coincidences, No. And, whenever you're being challenged, it's because, it's time to test your strength. How far have you really come as a person? How far have you really come as a being here?
Exactly. And, we always talk about having these different personas. We mentioned like, we have Rafiki and Simba. And, there's different aspects. One of the things that we've been, that David uses a lot is the big dick energy. We're going to be talking about some big dick energy. And that is, basically, kind of going back to what I said about that you have to control the energy in the room. You shouldn't be affected by the energy in the room. You should actually be influencing what's going on. So when you walk up into work or school or into a party, you can't be fading into the background. Mm-hmm. You have to be showing them how you're manipulating the energy in the room. And that's, like he put it just very simply, the big dick energy.
Yeah, because at base,
what is it?
Big dick energy, it's just you being confident in yourself, you being proud of the person you are, and you riding your own fucking wave. What are you going to be, taking your surfboard to, to the pool if, you're your own kind of ocean? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's really what big dick energy is, It's super ugly sounding.
I know, it sounds so fucking bro show. It's like, but it's a real thing. And I think it's, it's just, I always, one of the things I tell David is I tell him, you have to come in and you have to make your presence known. People have to know that when you that you're impacting them in some way. Mm-hmm.
So recognize the power you have
exactly.
as a person.
Yeah, and it's just kind of making your presence known without having to say a word.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to that cliche. What are you trying to fit in so much if you're born to stand out? And we as people, we're one and the same. But the funny thing is that we're unique in our own way. But that's what makes us the same. But that's what also makes us unique. Mm-hmm. But what that is, just goes back to energy, is knowing that you are as a person, what you're bringing to the table, and you being confident, not arrogant, because quite simply, you can be a fucking tool, or you can be a straight douchebag.
Yeah,
but
with no purpose behind it. There's no, what did I tell you about arrogance?
Yeah, shit, what haven't you told me about fucking
Yeah.
arrogance? But simply put, you know, just because you're the loudest voice in the room doesn't mean you have any meaning behind those words.
Yeah.
You know, just because you're attracting the most attention yourself doesn't mean, you know, you're so fucking special.
Yeah.
You know, but the difference between confidence and arrogance is that confidence is walking into the room and knowing that you will be the best, but arrogance is walking into the room thinking already, I am the best.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. That's like so well put, because, you know, arrogance, you know, it feeds the ego, and the ego doesn't give you clarity. Ego keeps you unaware. So that's why you use your big dick, you, like I call it, your humble big dick energy. So humble always, and always have gratitude, because you just have to give. You know, you have to. You know, if somebody's giving you energy or giving you, you know, you don't want somebody to worship you. You want to take the energy that they're directing at you, and you want to basically pay it forward. You know, we talk about paying it forward, and that's something that I think that is very exciting for me to see from you, is that, you know, even though you're developing still and you're evolving and you're on your own personal journey, you understand the importance of paying it forward and of giving a, you know, taking that energy that was given to you and passing it on, because it's not yours to have.
It's a powerful thing, but it's kind of, you know, like in track, you know, you're just passing the baton on, you know, you're just passing somebody else the flag now. And that's what it is, you know, don't be selfish and try to harness all of this. Now you become a monster of greed, you know, just, you know, this thing that just wants everything for itself, but pass it on, impose, and, you know, your energy onto somebody else. Share that wisdom with somebody else. Teach somebody early what you learned late. It's too easy to just get sucked up in all of this and, you know, just get super big headed, going back to the ego, that you kind of forget where you come from. You forget your humble begins. You forget, you know, where you started. And, you know, you kind of just look down on people just because you're at a higher place.
Yeah.
But why look down on somebody when you can help them? You know, why make an enemy when you can make a friend?
Yeah.
You know, why hurt somebody when you have the opportunity to help them develop into something much more?
Right. And, you know, with you, I've told you, like, what can I do? Thank you so much. You know, you've taught me this, you know, I appreciate that. And like I've always told you, that the greatest thing that you can do is to pay it forward.
It's just to pass somebody else the fire, you know.
Pass somebody else, keep the message going. You know, the whole little silly thing that people do at like in the Starbucks line, where they like, this person's paying for my drink, and that, you know, it's kind of like
it's all fun and games until you get the motherfucker.
Until you get the motherfucker with the family, in the suburban,
with the soccer mom, and you're just like, oh, fuck. But again, paying it forward, because even though it sucked right then and there when, you know, you had to pay for, you know, Deborah and her, you know, and her whole soccer team, you made their day. Yeah, that's good karma. You did a good deed. Yeah. It's helping you become a better person. So you always get paid off.
You always get paid back. You're going to get paid back tenfold, you know, and it's not always going to be monetary. Yeah. You know, it's not always going to be monetary. And that's the thing that, you know, wealth comes in different forms. You know, I'm cash poor, but I am wealthy with friends and blessings and family. I'm very wealthy. But I'm cash poor. Yeah.
No, don't get it wrong. We're broke ass jokes, but we're blessed in many other ways other than just having coins in our pockets. I believe that the poorest people are the ones that only have money. Yeah. You know, the people that have no legacy. Yeah. You know? And that's another thing that you're always telling me is, you know, what is your legacy? You know, create your legacy, you know. Legacy is not just, you know, having a Fortune 500 company or, you know, doing this or doing that, but it's once you're gone, it's the people that stay behind that are going to carry your legacy, that are still going to bring honor to your name, that are still going to put respect on your name. That's what legacy truly is. Yeah. Well, you know, once we're all dead and gone, you know, the people still behind, what can they say about you? Oh, Jack, he was a fucking asshole. Right. He had like 3 hairs on his head. Exactly. Or are they going to say, oh, he was always there when we called on him. Yeah. He was a great person. You know, he was an even better teacher. He always, you know, went out of his way to, you know, to be the bigger person, always wanted to do the good deed, and always put, you know, others first before he did, and always passed on that light, you know? Yeah. That's the importance. That's what to me really is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what is the point of what we're doing? You know, if we're out there, you know, I always think of that before I make a decision, or before, I open my big mouth. Sometimes I say, what is my legacy? And and in kind of a less evolved form, I think about what would people say about me at my funeral. What would they say? You have the people coming out of the woodworks, people that you haven't seen in years.
Especially nowadays with social media, Instagram and Facebook, are dead man's best friend and shit. Once you're dead, you're more popular than you've ever.
I know.
Been.
I got more views now than when I was alive.
Motherfuckers.
Yep.
But, and like a perfect example, is not too long ago too. We lost one of the greats. We lost Nipsey Hussle.
Yeah.
And, to an extent, he was kind of slept on as an artist. But his message was great. But even what he did for his community was even greater. He could have easily been, Beverly Hills, Calabasas, somewhere. No. He kept the roots right there, yep, and he built the community around him. So that's why once, his early demise, unfortunately, his name's never going to die because that legacy is there.
No. And it's not necessarily for his music that he's going to be known for, but his legacy is what he did for his community, what he did for youth, and that is a more important message than a couple of EPs and a Grammy nomination, which is amazing to accomplish, but
more importantly, he was somebody you can look up to. He was a man of the people, and he took care of his people. But before that, or even then, he also took care of the youth. The youth are often misguided, but if you look, if you take another look, the youth is our future. Once you're old and senile, who's going to take care of you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You look to the children of today, and you're going to see the future.
That's
They're
right.
the building blocks of things to come that can sway either or.
Yeah. And this is just getting the message out. What one of the messages of my podcast is to live your best life. And part of living your best life is doing for others, and because that's what that's your legacy. What are we doing all this for? What is the point of all of this if we can't have something that we said or someone that we impacted to continue on with that? So it's just like I always think about those things when I'm talking to people, or when I'm making a decision. I think what is this gonna what legacy am I going to leave behind? But it's not something that we often think about. For me, I think about it more because I don't have children. Because you immediately, when you think of legacy, you're like, oh, well, those are my children. That's what I'm leaving behind, a life that I created.
But you forget that you're leaving others behind, your friends, your family,
right,
your peers, your allies, people that, you impacted in some way or another. They don't necessarily have to fucking come from you.
Right.
You don't got to fucking, and here they go, that little shit right there, that one's mine. No,
that's cerote there.
Yeah, that's cerote right there. Yeah, got you. But, it's your friends, your family, the people that you're leaving behind once, you're no longer here. That's what legacy will be.
That's what my legacy will be. So, so I just, I that's just something that I, recently David and I talked about, because I think that, with his mind, your frame of mind being that, you want to mentor other people, which I think is great. Like the message that, he got from me and the inspiration I gave him was that, I want to mentor other people, and you've had a few people that you're mentoring. Like, how is that, being on the other side, no longer being the student, but being the teacher?
It's definitely come full circle, but something that you can't forget is that no matter how bad of a motherfucker you are, how wise of a monkey you are, how profound you can be, you can always learn more. You're always going to be a student. And the second you realize that, or, you kind of think that you know everything, that's when you know nothing. When you think you got it all, you got nothing, So that's something that I remind myself too, is that now that I'm mentoring other people and I've got students of my own, it's kind of funny, but I know that they're looking to me as well. They're looking to me for, my advice, my wisdom, this or that. But I have to remember too that as, as many students as I have, I'm still a student myself.
Yeah.
You know, every master has their master.
That's right. That's right. And the message just continues. So, when I look at him, he's my legacy, I'm his legacy, and so on and so forth. So, that's what, that's where when I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I see that. And that's really what made me realize what my life purpose was and what my passion is mentoring. And I've always been doing it over the years in different forms. But I really feel like with you, I really realized that this was like my true calling, because I felt like you really understood what I was trying to do, and you actually like took it to the next level, So, I always thank him, he's always thanking me, but I said, what, honestly, thank you for really making me realize what my true calling is, because I don't think, had we met, maybe I wouldn't be doing it in the capacity that I'm doing it now, so thank you. When we talk about the journey, I always tell you, I said, it's always great to look back and to see how far you've come. And part of doing that is seeing people and situations and places that were part of the journey. But all we do is look back on them, and we give gratitude for what how they impacted our life, because we wouldn't be where we're at now without them. But we're always looking forward. We are always looking forward. And with that said, what are you have, the journey is everlasting. What is it that you're looking forward to in this journey?
That next big aha moment that everybody has, it's like, wow, that's why scenarios A, B, or C didn't crack out, because it was supposed to happen this way.
Yeah.
Or, the next big, not bang, but like eureka moment, like, oh, that's why all this was happening, because it was preparing me for this. It was things like that. That's what I'm always looking forward to, always, respect the grind, always appreciate the struggle, because the struggles aren't going to last forever.
Yeah.
Like going back to what we were saying, the unpleasant truth is that, everything ends, nothing lasts. But, swings both ways. Whatever stress, conflict, negativity you got going on in your life is not going to be there for fucking ever.
Yeah. It's just a temporary situation.
It's going to fade away. But the payoff for that, thing happening in your life right then and there is greater than you can ever imagine, because it's going to shape you into a much stronger, into a much better, into a much more wise person,
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I think that, thank you for sharing, your journey, without getting too personal, because that's the thing, it's like, we're exposing ourselves out here, and,
that's the thing too. You don't want to dump on somebody, I was heartbroken at fucking age 6. They canceled my favorite fucking cartoon or whatever. But, it's learning how to differentiate between, being a sob story, being a comeback story.
Well, let's talk about that, because we always talk about people who dump and people who are consistent dumpers. It's like
consistent dumpers.
Yeah, it's like, what? I pay to get my trash taken out once a week, but these motherfuckers need to be there, have their trash taken out every day.
Yeah.
And I'm only paying for once a week. So, this kind of goes into, just not being self-aware. It kind of goes back to that, where it's like, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, what the fuck? What the fuck?
What the fuck?
But, my heart goes out to them too, because, there are people that are going through a tough time in their life, but thinking that just sharing their problems with everybody or anybody that's willing to listen is going to...
And social media.
Is going to close that hole in their heart, when really what needs to happen is, you need to take time and, quit poking at the scab, because you keep scratching at the scab, it's never going to close up.
No.
If you keep, retelling the same story, and, just asking for more sympathy, it's never going to get better. And eventually you're just that broken record that nobody wants to really hear anymore.
Yeah. And like, the sad truth is that, yes, your friends are there for you, and they want, your friends should be there for you in times of crisis, but when you have a crisis every week, every day, you know, that shit gets played out. And, you know, it for me, it's frustrating to see, because you're allowing this situation or this person that is upsetting you or causing this heartache or drama, you're allowing them control over you. You're allowing them to affect your life in a way that is very negative.
Or your mood as well.
Or your mood.
Yeah, it just puts a damper on your energy, you know. It just puts like a big old, like it's trying to snuff your light out, essentially. But really, you know, you want to be there for your friends, but you don't want to be taken for a fucking fool neither.
Yeah, right.
You know?
You don't want to be boo-boo the fool.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, and or be that person that friend dumps on every time when they have a problem, which, you know, is usually every other week. You know, it goes back to being self-aware and taking your life into your hands. You're responsible for your own life. You know, I can't stress that enough. You're responsible for your own actions, for your own life. Nobody is responsible for you. Like I told you, you know, for me as your mentor, I am not responsible for your happiness. I'm not responsible for your, you know, for your life. You're responsible for it. I'm only here as support. I'm not driving the car. I am not even in the car, actually. I am on the side of the road.
You're just watching that shit.
Yeah, I'm just watching. Hey, if your tire falls off, hey, I'm gonna help you put it back on, but I'm not gonna get in the car and drive and take the keys from you and drive, because at that point you no longer have free will, and it's not my responsibility, and nor can I take on that for you. It's not healthy, and it's not my responsibility.
Yeah, because happiness comes from one's own self. You know, happiness comes deep from within you. You can find happiness temporarily in another person, in an object, in something or another, but it has to come from within you, and you have to be happy with where you are and what you're doing and who, you know, what's going on with you. Because too oftentimes I feel that, you know, people kind of dictate where their happiness comes from, and it usually comes from a person. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up.
Happiness comes from within. So going back to, you know, that person that's consistently dumping on you and, you know, just bombarding you with all of their issues and problems. Yes, be a good friend, but there's a difference between being a good friend and being taken for a fucking fool.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And like you just brought up a very good point with, you know, you're responsible for your own happiness. And, you know, typically in my observation, in my, you know, past interactions with people who are just so devastated about the situation, and, you know, they're dumping on you every other day, is that they allowed that person to be their everything. They allowed that person to be their best friend, their lover, their confidant, their therapist, their mentor. You know, they put so much on that person that when that person wasn't there anymore, it literally felt like, you know, a baby with his chupon taken away. He's going to cry. He's like, and it's not going to stop crying until you give it back. So it's very traumatic to a person that relies on another person so much for their happiness. That's why it's important to be happy with yourself. Yeah. Now let's talk about the light, because we always talk about light a lot and sharing our light and recognizing light. You know, what does that mean to you?
The light within you, it's just the purity of one soul, of one spirit. It's, you know, it's the kindness and compassion inside a human. It's, you know, the genuineness and the sincerity inside of all of us. That's what the light is. I mean, we all contain, you know, a little bit of dark in us, and we all obviously know what the dark is. You know, it's destructive, it's self-harming, you know, it just does a multitude of bad, but that's duality of things. You know, there can't be light without dark, but you ain't gotta have that whole fucking cloud inside of you when you can have, you know, the whole fucking light bulb. Yeah. That's what that means to me. You know, it's just amplifying that light to, you know, to the best of your abilities, and again, being the best person you can be. And I feel like that's, you know, without sounding too corny, it's something everybody can get behind. Yeah. You know, because oftentimes, you know, there's a lot of hating motherfuckers out there, bro. Like, there's a lot of haters, negative fucking people. Yeah. And, you know, they'll say, oh, that's corny, or oh, that's, you know, that's whack. Being in a good mental state is whack. Being positive is corny. Being, just being a better you is dumb. That's how I know you hate motherfuckers. So now
That's right.
Now I
Yeah.
gotta bounce the fuck out.
Yeah.
Because I can't be fucking with you too much. If that's all you're bringing to the fucking party, it's just a whole bunch of negativity and shit that nobody really asked for. Fuck out of my circle.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is essentially. It's just self-love and self-appreciation without getting too fucking big-headed, but while also passing on that love to other people.
That's right. That's right. Because, we talk about namaste all the time. We talk about what, how it's, it is also another one of corny things, and it's kind of a buzzword that people say, and, but really the meaning of namaste is recognizing the light in other people, and because it's the light that you have in you, and it's the same thing. But, you have to be emitting light in order for me to recognize it. That, like you said, oftentimes people are not showing you their light; they're showing you their dark. So I can't namaste with you.
Yeah.
I can't namaste with you, okay? Because I'm only giving light, baby. I ain't giving. I've already conquered the darkness within me, and I'm not. That's not what I'm showing you.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm trying to show you the light in me so you can recognize it in yourself. But if that's all you're fucking consistently doing, is just saying some hateful shit or some harmful shit, or just being a toxic person, I can only wish you the best and send you off with light and blessings.
Right.
Because obviously you're not taking my words, my advice, or trying to accept my efforts. So I'm gonna let you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And I only pray that the next time I find you, you're gonna be in a much better place.
Right. And that's the thing, you part ways with people, and you come back, and there's always a part of you that hopes, I hope they, maybe they've changed. Maybe not that they've changed, because it's not a matter of changing. It's a matter of evolving. Have they improved? Have they evolved? And oftentimes, we're disappointed by that. We're disappointed that, it's to say like, oh, it's the same old so-and-so. It's the same old whatever. Do you really want to be the same old person you were in high school or back in the day?
Yeah, like back in the heyday.
Right.
But really, too, like, to flip it, you got to learn how to forgive people, because hanging on to anger and that madness and that hatred is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies.
Yeah.
You can only forgive a person. You can only hope that they're doing the best that they could in that current state, in that current mindset that they can possibly muster. And you just have to keep holding yourself to a better standard.
Yeah.
You have to keep, playing your own song and dance. You have to keep playing your own ball game, at your own skill level.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that other person isn't matching it after so long, you can only wish them the best and hope that they keep going forward. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
But just because it's a slow race don't mean you got to be there.
That's right. Yeah.
Especially if it's hurting you.
Yeah. I'll be waiting for you at the finish line when you get there eventually.
That's right. You're going to get there eventually. I'm going to be there.
I won't be there. But in the meantime,
I'm going to be over here.
I'm going to be over here.
Continue my own self
living my best life.
Yeah. Continuing my own self journey too. And, recognizing and, improving on things that I got to do, and, appreciating things that I got, because that's all we can do as people.
Yeah. And, one of the last things that I really want to talk about in the journey is I want to talk about, the self journey, your own journey. And then how we talked about, you and I have talked about is, the journey that you create with another person. They're two separate things. And oftentimes we feel like, yes, there's people that come in your life and they come in, they come in for a visit in your journey, but they're not there to stay, because your journey is yours. It's
people
exclusive.
For a season and people for a reason.
Right. Exactly. And, this is something that I had explained to my husband, we were going through some issues, and I told him, I said, you have your journey, I have my journey, but then we have our journey together. Those are three separate journeys, and we all have to honor each of those journeys. You have to honor my journey. I have to honor yours. And then we have to honor the journey that we have together. And I think oftentimes people don't realize that those are all separate,
and oftentimes too, people are judgmental of the things too. Like, I see where you came from, but you're also not thinking of where they're going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, they started in the fucking trash can, but now they're, you know, on top of the hill. You're not just placed on the top of the mountain like that. You get up there.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's also an important thing too, is that, you know, people, they don't respect that. They don't respect that, you know, at one point or another, you know, that person was there, but you know, you never know why that person is there. You know, you only see what they're doing, you know, whether, you know, they're coping with their problems in a multitude of ways. You know, like we always talk about this, you know, whether it's drugs and alcohol or, you know, it's doing A, B, or C. You know, you see a person doing that, you never know what they're going through though. And then when you hear about a person doing that in their past, it kind of just turns them away. You know, like they kind of turn, you know, their back on them. But, you know, you can't be judgmental. You can't be, you know, like ignorant to what they were going through. Neither. You have to respect that that was their journey, but now they're coming into a better place.
Yeah.
You know, now they're getting to a better place, and now they're going forward instead of going backwards.
Yeah.
Or staying in the same spot.
So, for instance, in your past relationships that you've had, do you feel like you guys had a separate journey, or were you only recognizing the journey that you were on together?
Definitely, it was probably just the journey that we were on together, and you know, your own self journey stays stagnant.
Yeah.
And that should never happen.
Right.
You got to continue building yourself, building that other person, and then building yourselves together.
Yeah.
That's something that not a lot of people will recognize neither. They, you know, I understand that, you know, you're so in love with a person, you know, you're so all about them that that's all you think about. But at the same time, when, you know, you're going to be by yourself at one point or another, even your shadow leaves you in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the self-love?
Well, yeah, where's that at? You know, you're giving yourself away entirely to this person. And then if that person were to ever leave or something happens like that, where did you go?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's important to have that foundation in yourself. It's important to have that self-love and that appreciation of yourself and know who you are and what you're bringing to the table before you can give yourself away to somebody, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's like, what are you bringing to the table? And we always talk about this too. You know, it's like, what kind of, you know, what gifts are you bringing to the table? You know, because I'm bringing some big dick energy.
Like
I'm
big
bringing,
said, believe
I'm
me,
bringing some
sweetie.
big dick, but yeah, it's enough to feed the needy.
That's right.
You know, I'm bringing you cups filled to the brim. If you're bringing me cups with holes in them that cannot stay filled, then that's, you know, it's, you know, I always use the example of like, you know, we have a bucket. If you bring your cup and you fill up in that bucket, and you bring your cup and you, that bucket is going to overflow with like the love and the energy and what you're bringing into the relationship. And it's just going to be this amazing relationship. But, you know, you have one person bringing their cup full and the other, them bringing it about 3/4 of the way. You know, that's not really going to fill up. Something has to give. Where is that extra?
Where's it going to come from?
Where's it going to come from? And typically it has to come from the other person. But in doing so, that drains your cup. That drains your cup. It takes something from you in order to boost another person. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a difference between supporting. There's, you know, we're going to support our partner and we're going to support them in the things that they do and in life. But there's a difference between supporting them and, you know, which is just like, hey, you know, you're still walking by yourself. And I'm just like supporting you. I'm holding you from the back. And there's another difference. You're like throwing them on your back.
Yeah.
You know, and that is, you know, eventually the strain of that takes its toll. If you're putting all your energy and effort and the love and the happiness and trying to keep that person happy, it eventually takes its toll on you because you can't sustain that. You know, you can sustain it for a little while because you're a person who is strong and has a lot of love to give, and you're going to be able to sustain it for a little while, but in the long term, it's going to take its toll. And oftentimes we see, you know, people in relationships where they resent another person because they, you know, had to make a lot of sacrifices, or they had to, you know, that other person relied on them for so much of their happiness, and they were always constantly reassuring them and boosting them up. And it's like, you know, that doesn't that doesn't really work.
And it's, it's one of the most noble things to build somebody up, and the most, you know, heartfelt things to, help somebody get to, the best them they can possibly be. But it's another to light yourself on fire to, to show them the way,
Right.
It's another drowning yourself trying to help them.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a thing too, is that it's crucial that you know who you are, and it's crucial that it's sustainable before you can get into a relationship or a commitment with another person.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not, it could just be more self-harming and be a big step in the wrong direction for both, not just you but this other person as well, because they could think that, oh, they're not good enough, or reasons A, B, and C, but really it was just wasn't there.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna put you on blast for a second, because there was something that you said that really was interesting to me, that you said in a joking way, but it kind of really made a lot of sense as we talk about decoys. And so I'm going to be very general because I'm not going to expose him here. But there's these females, and they're really cute and all this stuff, and as he's kind of reading the room on them and kind of seeing what they're about, he's like, he explained to me like, Jack, this is like, because I've always told him, I said, don't come to me with your chicks or your hoes or your bitches. He goes, I want you to talk to me about the ride or die, the girl that's gonna like be the one, like that's the ones I want to hear about. I want to hear about these chicks. And he's like, so he's just assuring me, he's like, nah, Jack, she's just a decoy. Ooh. And I'm like, a decoy? Like, what do you mean? Like, and he's like, she's just put there as a test, as something like to, be, put in my, path to just be like, okay, like I gotta, like she's testing me on like, really, am I ready? Am I ready for a relationship? Am I ready for like to take the next step with somebody? Like these are like, they're not necessarily girls that I'm going to like marry or that I'm going to get into a serious relationship with, but they're going to kind of test me to see like, hey, are you even really ready for this? So the fact that he called her a decoy, I thought, that's fucked up way to put it. I mean, it's fucked up, but it's kind of genius in the same sense, because it's kind of true. You do meet these people in your life that aren't necessarily going to be, but they're kind of preparing you, or they're kind of testing you to see, am I really ready? Like, am I self-developed enough? Do I have enough self-love to be like ready to get into a serious relationship? So I just thought that was such a interesting way to put it.
Yeah, because at the same time, you don't want to settle for something just because you think that's what it is that you want, because at the end of it, you're wasting your time, you're wasting somebody else's time. You never want to do that with somebody. You never want to do that with anybody for any reason. And it, in a way, it does sound fucked up as saying it's a decoy, but it's not a decoy. It's a test, but it's also to see, like you were saying, are you really ready for what you want? So here, here's a test. Can you, are you really about it? And you figure it out, because at the same time, you meet people, you stumble upon them by fate, by chance, and things start to blossom. But is it really what you're ready to commit to? Is it really what you're going to be about? Is it really something that you can stand 10 toes down with and say, yes, I can commit to this? So it's important to to feel things out, and to not waste time with somebody, but kind of lead people on in a way, which is important too, because that comes down to communication, which is a big thing that people aren't really about.
Don't even get me started.
I'm just hitting the G spot right now, just saying that word. Fucking,
oh, you're hitting the spot right now.
Hitting the spot. Fucking nipples got hard and everything. But no, it's important. Are you about it like this, or are you just being friendly and making a connection with somebody?
Right.
Because for me, one of the hobbies that I like to do is I like to learn about people. I like to see what they're all about. I like to see what goes on in their head. because this person interests me, not in a romantic way or in this way or in that way, but I want to see what they're all about. I want to see what goes on in their head so I can better understand them.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, that can be misinterpreted in a different way, because I feel that nowadays people are like, oh, he's taking interest in me, he wants to learn about me, oh, he wants to get with me, or he wants to do this and do that. Nah, motherfucker, I'm just trying to be a friend. I'm trying to be a homie.
Yeah.
Like, that's something too, is that people don't know how to have friends. You know what I mean? Especially between a man and a woman, they're
Right.
like, oh, they're probably piping, or they're probably doing something or another. But oftentimes you can just be friends with somebody. You can just spend time with somebody because you enjoy their presence and you enjoy their company, and you just get along with them.
Yeah.
Or because you just want to learn a little bit more about them. Either or is completely fine, but communication is key.
Mm-hmm.
And going back, that's something that I've really had to improve upon, not just for myself but for others as well. Because as I'm talking to all these people, both men and women, though, they think I'm trying to get with them or something, but I'm really like, it ain't even like that.
Yeah.
Like,
it ain't even like that. And
I'm just being cool with you because you interest me genuinely
Right.
as a person.
Right.
Human to human, I think you're really fucking cool.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put a fucking ring on and be like, all right, bitch, let's go let's go get a farm and go have a couple kids together.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Excuse me if I say bitch. It's gender neutral.
Yes, it's gender neutral. And that's the thing. Like, I remember one time you telling me, you're like, man, like, why are these people getting mixed messages about me? Like, am I, what kind of like vibe am I giving off? And like, I remember telling you, I said, well, it's because you're just an open person. Mm-hmm. You're open to, just meeting people. And like you said, you like to talk to people and get to know them. And, so a lot of, going back to, they're tuned into your station.
It's
but
ironic.
Yeah. But they don't know the lyrics. Is like they're interpreting your interests and just like getting to know somebody and like, meeting new people to this bitch. This dude wants to get with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the ironic thing, is that as private as of a person I am, I'm also very open to
that's the thing about it.
Open
Yeah.
to, genuinely sitting down with somebody and having a conversation, because I feel that the art of a conversation is something that is kind of forgotten nowadays. Again, I'm hitting your G-spot again. You gotta go get a new pair of fucking pants after that one.
Dude.
Getting skinned by your zipper.
But this is just a little prequel to what, one of the big things that we'll be talking about, which you touched upon, which is conversation and communication.
And to piggyback back to what I was saying, is that it's people are like super narrow-minded and like super close-minded to what's really going on. Like if I, for example, invited somebody out to, have dinner or something like that, they're like, oh, he's asking me out on a date. Nah, I was going to go get something to eat. Nah, I prefer not to eat alone. So, I invited person A or B with me, and that's where it stops. Yeah. It's a friendship. It's a connection. It's just,
it's that. And it's like, I don't not personally like eating lunch alone, When I would go out to lunch, I'd be like, well, whoever, I'm like a whore when it comes out to, I'll go out with anyone for lunch.
Yeah.
And it's just because you just want to conversate with somebody and have some human interaction.
It's also an experience too, to really sit down and get to know somebody on a bit of a deeper level. But it's something people don't know how to, differentiate between, is he doing this because of this reason, or is he doing it because of that reason? So that's why, communication is very important. Be like, hey, I think you're cool. I just want to like get to know you and, talk to you, and that's it. I ain't trying to, get in your pants or anything like that. And that's the thing too, is that we live in a kind of society and a kind of culture where that's like pretty much the end game between for like every other relationship. And it's kind of ruined it for everybody. Because now everybody's like, oh, he's only trying to do it because of this or that. They don't know that the intention behind it is very genuine, and it's very wholesome, actually. And it's not just like, oh, he's only doing that because, he wants to get into his pants, or he wants to, do this or do that. And again, God damn. Like, it's difficult because there's always that perception that happens from it. There's always, how it looks to other people, and then how they come to their own conclusions, how they Yeah, they jump to their own conclusions. They make their own assumptions, and then they think that their assumption is axiom, it's law, it's fact.
Yeah.
And it's not true at all. And then that's how a rumor gets created.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And then that's how communication dies.
Yes.
Like, it's just like.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. It's been insightful. I knew that you were going to be a natural here. How you feeling about it? Is it everything you thought it was going to be?
Oh my God, the lights, the camera, the action. This is
Yes.
badass, bro. I'm a fucking superstar.
I know.
I feel like Audrey Hepburn or some shit.
I don't want to be on this podcast all the time.
I still don't, motherfucker. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I'm gonna have to like blur out his face because he doesn't want anybody to even know.
That's a fact.
Even though what he doesn't know, I'm gonna like tag him on everything when I put this podcast
I'll
out.
block you,